We all know P. Diddy is behind them bars because he be doing that Diddy stuff. P. Diddy got accused of ordering a hit on Tupac. Everybody probably like, you young. We been do that. Well, damn, beats me.
All these years later, the former gang leader is behind bars in Las Vegas and is insisting the case be thrown out. And he is implicating another music legend
Oh my
who's making
God.
headlines, Sean Diddy Combs. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber.
Grab your snacks. About to
Dwayne
get crazy.
P. Davis is said to be behind one of the most infamous killings in history. Tupac
God.
Shakur, the 90s rap superstar, was gunned down while riding in a car with Suge Knight after the Mike Tyson fight at the MGM Grand. And over the years, there have been multiple investigations into Tupac Shakur's murder, but there has been one man who has seemed to implicate himself in the assassination again and again and again. Dwayne Davis, also known as Keefe D. By the way, spelled sometimes with two F's, sometimes with two E's, even sometimes with a Y. Gets a little bit confusing, but Keefe D. Now, Davis was reportedly the leader of a sect of the Crips street gang in Compton, California that dealt in drug sales and trafficking.
Big banging.
Davis eventually did time in prison on drug charges in the late 90s, but since getting out, he has been more open about his apparent involvement in Shakur's death. Davis released his own tell-all book. It's called Compton Street Legend, Notorious Keefe D's street-level accounts of Tupac and Biggie murders, death row origins, Suge Knight, Puffy Combs, and crooked cops. And he started granting interviews with YouTubers who wanted the inside scoop on what happened on that night back in 1996 out in Las Vegas. So Davis and several members of his entourage apparently attended the Mike Tyson boxing fight. But afterward, in the casino, Shakur had attacked Davis's nephew, Orlando Anderson. The fight had apparently been sparked by a previous beef over an alleged stolen neck chain. So the men eventually separated. The two groups went on their way. But Anderson, Davis, and others that were with them were reportedly still pretty heated over what had just happened. And later that night, allegedly, their plan was to target Shakur and Knight. And Knight, of course, is the head of, or was the head of, Death Row Records, as they were all stopped at a traffic light. Now, in an interview with the Art of Dialogue channel, Davis said he was in the front passenger seat that night with DeAndre Big Dre Smith and Anderson in the back seat of the rented Cadillac. And what happens next? Who fired the shots? Take a listen.
Dre, he was the one that was supposed to shoot, Tupac and Suge, but he got scared, right?
No, he didn't really get scared. He wasn't ready for that. They was youngsters, man, kids.
But once again, I mean, y'all Crips, right? So he should be used to that, right, Dre? So why was
He wasn't ready for that. Everybody got a role, man. Everybody ain't killers. Everybody, you know what I'm saying? Everybody ain't gonna kill.
So
everybody
Dre,
ain't
he
with
wasn't
that.
a shooter?
No.
That is true. But as a man, your ass better be a killer. Goddamn. They break into your shit. Your ass just, I'm not a killer. They about to just fuck me over. Yeah, all right, bro. You causing harm to me, bro. I can give a damn at this point. Because you obviously don't care about me. So why should I care about you, pal? It's just on some dumb gang-related stuff. It's pointless to just kill somebody over something petty. It's pointless. Everybody's not a killer. If it's just an ordinary situation where y'all just beefing over some things and things escalate. But when it comes to self-defense, man, your ass better turn into a killer, man. God damn it. You better defend your family and fucking get yourself out there alive if things ever come down to it. I ain't trying to hear all that not a killer shit.
Okay, so, but he was the one that was supposed to shoot up Tupac and Suge, but for some reason, he wasn't ready for it, so he gave the gun to Orlando, right?
Something like that, yeah.
And Orlando is the shooter. He's the known shooter. I mean, everybody know Orlando Anderson was a shooter. So Dre got cold feet. He didn't want to do it. He gave the gun to Orlando, and Orlando shot Tupac and Suge.
Yeah, he did his thing, yeah.
Now, let's be clear about something. Anderson has always denied that he was the killer. In fact, he died just a few years after Shakur in another shooting. The other men in the Cadillac, DeAndre Smith and the driver, Terry Brown, they are also both dead. But Davis told a lot of this information to Los Angeles and Las Vegas investigators as well. And this is after he apparently became a confidential informant for a task force that was looking into the murder of Christopher Wallace, also known as Biggie Smalls and the notorious B.I.G. By the way,
That's how he got out.
Diddy. We did a whole separate sidebar episode on how Sean Combs' former bodyguard came out recently, spoke on a documentary, and saying that Sean Combs could have been involved in the murder of Christopher Wallace. I encourage everybody to check it out if you're interested.
Golly.
But then going back to Tupac, we go to September of 2023. So this is
this man Diddy has something to do with Tupac and Biggie, bro. Like, jeez, like the end of them, like that. Help bring them up, take them out too. Golly.
27 years after Shakur's death, and Davis was arrested near his home outside of Las Vegas and taken into custody. And since then, after he's been charged with the murder of Tupac Shakur, he and his legal team have been working to get him out of jail and to get his case thrown out. Now, we can say definitively he has lost both of those battles. He has pleaded not guilty to first-degree murder. He's supposed to go to trial in March, but I want to explain a little bit more about this. So earlier this month, Davis's defense team filed a motion to dismiss the case. And as part of his argument, he is pointing the finger, seemingly, at Sean Diddy Combs as the one who really is responsible for Shakur's death. Yeah, this is one of those stories that we've been constantly trying to keep an eye out for, bring you updates as they develop. And for that, I gotta call out our amazing sponsor, Morgan & Morgan, because their support helps us to keep on doing this. But here's the deal. If you're injured, Morgan & Morgan, the exclusive personal injury law firm of law and crime, America's largest injury law firm, that may be who you want. Morgan $1 million verdict for
advertisement.
Why not start? Just 8th. Combs was beginning his meteoric rise to the top of the rap world. He had started Bad Boy Records, now called Bad Boy Entertainment. And of course, there was this ongoing feud, West Coast versus East Coast, with this feud that he had with Tupac Shakur and Suge Knight, again, the leader of Death Row. So I want to take a look at the legal arguments that Davis's team had in their filing. And it reads, Defendant Dwayne Keith Davis hereby files this motion to dismiss on the basis that the state of Nevada has failed to timely pursue these charges against Mr. Davis, failed to provide corroborating evidence to support Mr. Davis's coerced confession, and failed to honor the federal proffer agreement between Mr. Davis and the United States government, thus substantially impairing Mr. Davis's constitutional rights. So two big arguments here. One is that the government waited too long to file the murder case, 27 years. They claim that this was done maliciously. By the way, though, typically speaking, there are no statute of limitations for murder. But even if they had filed the charges sooner, this is Davis's other argument, Davis says he's immune from prosecution thanks to an agreement he had with investigators when he was hauled in to talk about Tupac Shakur's shooting. And listen, remember, Bill Cosby, we all remember what happened to him. His conviction for drugging and raping a woman was vacated because his due process rights were violated, since a former DA had, in fact, made an oral promise to Cosby that he wouldn't be prosecuted. And remember, Cosby relied on that promise to admit some incriminating things about that encounter. So a high court actually determined his conviction should be thrown out.
Wow.
But going back to this, the first big interview that was referenced in the filing is from a couple years after Tupac Shakur died. On July 16th, 1998, Mr. Davis was interviewed by Assistant United States Attorney Michael Terrell. Mr. Davis's attorney, Mr. Eddie Fayol, was present. The interview was considered a proffer agreement between the United States government and Mr. Davis, under which any information provided by Mr. Davis would not be prosecuted related to that information. Mr. Davis was repeatedly questioned about the alleged murder of Tupac Shakur. Mr. Davis denied knowing who shot Mr. Shakur. Mr. Davis was asked to speculate as to who shot Mr. Shakur. Mr. Davis stated it was the Compton Police Department under the direction of Suge Knight, owner of Death Row Records. Mr. Davis was asked what would be Mr. Knight's motive, and Mr. Davis responded Mr. Shakur was getting ready to leave working with Death Row Records. At no time during the interview, less than 2 years after Mr. Shakur's shooting, did Mr. Davis state that he or members of Southside Crips were involved in any manner with the shooting of Mr. Shakur. Okay, goes to an issue of credibility. Well, Davis says he was interviewed again in 1999, and during that meeting, he denied that his nephew Anderson was the shooter. Mr. Davis stated that Mr. Anderson was not involved in the shooting of Mr. Shakur. Mr. Davis did discuss that Mr. Anderson was attacked by Mr. Shakur in Las Vegas the night of Mr. Shakur's shooting. Nevertheless, the decision was made to retaliate in Compton since there were so many police around in Las Vegas during the Mike Tyson fight. And during that interview, Davis blamed Compton police for spreading the rumor that Anderson had shot Shakur, although later we know that Davis himself would say that in public statements. But the motion to dismiss also says that Davis was offered immunity during the Biggie Smalls investigation in the early 2000s. The filing reads, The 3 LAPD and FBI agents were part of a task force to solve the shooting of rapper Notorious B.I.G., also known as Biggie Smalls, legal name Christopher Wallace. The task force, through a sophisticated criminal investigation, obtained sufficient evidence that would prove Mr. Davis was the leader of the Southside Crips and his gang was responsible for over 360 kilos of cocaine and PCP. Mr. Davis provided 3 interviews to obtain immunity from prosecution. The final interview was solely questions regarding the Tupac Shakur shooting, which Mr. Davis was also provided immunity from prosecution. So during a December 2008 interview with investigators, that is when Davis allegedly started to spill the beans about his longtime friend, Sean Combs, who he refers to as Puffy. He claims Sean Puffy Combs solicited Mr. Davis to kill Suge Knight and Tupac Shakur for $1 million. Eric Zip Martin, an associate of Puffy Combs, provided Mr. Davis with a gun to exact revenge on Tupac Shakur for the
$1 million is a lot of money, bro. Unless you have a family to take care of, like $1 million just being your money, bro. Like you have to be living way beyond your means, like living a lifestyle that you always wanted and never could to go broke. But if you're still living with everybody else, bro, $1 million, you can have that for a long ass time. I don't care about inflation. I don't know what people be saying, bro. A certain amounts of money is just crazy to fall from, even though it's possible. But I don't understand how.
Davis reportedly told the investigators that even though the job had been partially completed and Shakur was killed, neither he nor Anderson ever got paid. He later revealed that he believes Combs had paid the go-between, Zip Martin, who he claims kept the money for himself. And he said much of the same thing in a 2009 interview a year later.
They didn't even get paid, bro. They didn't even get paid for killing Tupac, bro. That's crazy. Damn.
Motion to dismiss. The Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, as far back as 2009,
Tupac basically lost his life for free. What the hell?
Was in possession of the same set of facts that the Clark County District Attorney is now alleging makes Mr. Davis responsible for the murder of Tupac Shakur. The Clark County District Attorney's Office has offered no reason as to why it waited another 14 years to prosecute a case against Mr. Davis. Mr. Davis has been irreversibly prejudiced by this unnecessary delay in prosecution of this case, and Mr. Davis's constitutional rights have been violated in an extraordinary manner never before witnessed in the annals of the American criminal justice system. Now, of course, there was a response because the prosecutors from Las Vegas called out Davis for being quite dramatic and said he has been telling on himself for decades. So their motion in opposition to the motion to dismiss states, in the years following Shakur's murder, defendant Dwayne Keefe D. Davis confessed to being involved in Shakur's murder in nearly every form imaginable. Defendant confessed to some of his role in Shakur's murder during an interview with LVMPD Homicide in 2009. Defendant admitted to seeking a deadly confrontation with Knight and Shakur in interviews with the producers of the Death Row Chronicles in 2017. Defendant recounted his involvement in Shakur's murder in his book published in 2019. And defendant has gleefully claimed responsibility for the murder of Shakur in numerous YouTube interviews from 2019 up until his arrest. And the prosecution then addressed the issue of immunity from prosecution, right? Well, maybe he's admitting everything because, he thinks he's immune. They have a response to that. Quote, defendant asserts that he has received immunity from prosecution in this case. Defendant has provided absolutely no proof that transactional immunity was ever conveyed by any prosecuting authority. Defendant has provided no federal court order conveying immunity. Defendant has provided no California court order conveying immunity. However, even if he had such a grant, they couldn't possibly cover his criminal liability in Nevada. Defendant also claims that his proffer in 1998 and his statement to Detective Long somehow created immunity for the crime. As the court is aware, the legal community utilizes proffer to describe a contractual relationship between an interviewee and a prosecuting authority. In essence, a proffer agreement allows for statements made pursuant to the terms by the interviewee to not be used against that person. The state does not seek to utilize the 1998 proffer session against defendant and has no idea what the terms of such an agreement were between him and the federal government before he entered his plea. The report seems to reflect that this was a standard proffer where a criminal defendant is interviewed about his knowledge on all possible criminal subjects he may have information about before he's allowed to enter his plea. While he doesn't refer to the proffer agreement with the AUSA Searwright, the terms of that agreement are known. Defendant was specifically informed that this agreement was between him and the federal government. Moreover, the agreement is limited to a single date and time. It allows for the statements to be utilized on cross-examination of defendant if he ever testifies differently. Finally, the agreement is limited by its express terms. Nothing in that agreement suggests the defendant has immunity from any criminal charges. Notwithstanding,
Bro,
it appears to only apply by its
That's
express
probably why he
terms
was talking.
to an interview on December 1st,
He thought he had immunity
2008.
to everything.
Certainly, defendant is free to litigate the admissibility of the December 18, 2008 statement. However, case law establishes that defendant's
They didn't trick this boy, bruh. They tricked him.
mistake of fact about its admissibility, particularly where he had a lawyer present who knows the specific terms of the agreement, would not lead to suppression of the statement, meaning it can't come into evidence. And on Tuesday, Clark County District Court Judge Carly Kearney agreed with the prosecution, saying Davis has provided no proof that he had any immunity deals. And we're going to expect to hear in the next few days if Davis's legal team plans to appeal that decision to the state Supreme Court. Remember, going back to Cosby, it was the Pennsylvania Supreme Court who ultimately determined that his conviction should be vacated because he had entered into an immunity agreement. So,
tragedy what happened to Tupac, and then what caused it is even crazier, bro. Watch the people around you, bro, because it be the people who bring you up, to bring you around, that want to take you down, bro. For real. Be mindful who you come up with, man, because everybody ain't coming up with you. You just beside them, bro. Real. It's your boy. I didn't grow up on Tupac. Tupac and Biggie is not my time, so I can't really voice my opinion on this, but this is crazy. This is crazy, which is why I reacted to it. I feel like it's an important video to react to. Leave a like, subscribe, comment, something else I should react to. Peace.